We will now start the presentations of the first day of workshop. The first presentation will begin now. We will invite Professor Andrea Schroeder to take his place at the table.
Thank you very much. Let me just check that I don't overrun the time. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you very much for offering to host this event. In the ideal world, Tim Baines, who was part of the committee who organized this, would be standing here and presenting to you some of the notes I present. But he couldn't make it because there were a lot of other urgent commitments coming in the way. But I tried to do the best possible job to present his part about the Center of Servitization and then introduce some of the research that I'm involved in to give you some insights of the work that we are doing. Okay, so let me just map out my presentation. The first one is about, let me go back. I think the overall theme of this event here is to look at how to make practical research, how to work together with industry, and how to do this on the topic of product service systems. So the first part of my presentation will be about a research center that we at Aston University, under the guidance of Professor Tim Baines, have developed and are running it, and we're running it quite successfully. So I will talk about the objectives that we have, the projects, some of the projects we are doing, and the experience we have with this, because I believe that our center is one of the few centers in Europe that does exactly what we do, working together with industry on product service system, or in our case we call it servitization. So there's a lot of learning going on, and I'm hope to share some of the insights with you. The second part is I want to present a business angle to product service systems and servitization. So I understand that we are coming here from all over the range of disciplines, from engineering, some legal, some from different backgrounds. So my background is from a business background. Specifically, my background is from a business IT background. Okay, so I'm not saying that this is the end and beginning of product service systems, but it has the business perspective as an important perspective, because at the end we want to create some economic impact with this, the right economic impact. And yeah, I'm interested to share some of the research and a bit of an outlook of this, specifically about the business perspective on product service systems and the IT angle to it. Okay. So let me start with talking about the Aston Center of Servitization Research and Practice. So we have three core objectives that are tightly interrelated. The first one is we are a research center. So we're part of the Aston University. We're largely part of the business school, of the OIM group. So developing internationally leading research on servitization. And I define the term servitization in a minute if you're not familiar with it. That is part of our main remit, the research part. But on the other hand, we want to not just do the research and benefit from our own. Part of our remit is to develop a network of, on the one hand, researchers on servitization and product service system, and that hopefully with this event we can grow the network of researchers that are working together with us, but also with practitioners, with industry. So I will show you how we try to stimulate business networks that create these kind of ideas on product service systems and servitization. And the last part is we want to create impact. So impact comes in a lot of ways, but one core impact that we want to create, we want to educate practitioners, students, or people who are already in the industry about the opportunities and the requirements that product service systems and servitization creates for them. Okay, so this for us is the way to accelerate the adoption of this, and this is for economic and environmental good. By the way, you can jump in with questions anytime you have. So specifically, we want to accelerate the adoption of servitization. So servitization is a term If you're not familiar with it, it doesn't roll easily from the tongue, but you get used to it. I got used to it over the last 2 years. So it basically describes a lot what you would describe as product service system. So it's a process by which a manufacturer changes its business mode to provide a holistic solution to the customer. So it's about the manufacturer who starts off with having a regular product proposition, and then the changes that are required to turn this product proposition into a service-based proposition. So these kind of structural changes, managerial changes, IT changes, all of these are captured under the terminology of servitization. So in order to improve competitiveness, rather than just engaging in a single transaction through the sale of a physical product. So in the ideal world, we want to minimize the actual sale of physical products and want to incentivize organizations to look on their product over a long term as a service proposition. And I will give you specific examples of how this could look like. The other specific goals is to learn about the process of servitization from the world's leading organizations. So that is, we're not working in a bubble. We're not coming up with ideas that are totally out of the blue sky. So part of what we do is to identify organizations that are at the cutting edge of trying to develop service propositions, to move from a product-based focus to a service focus. Work with them, learn from them, and try to then distribute these kinds of insights. And yeah, and actually help manufacturers to servitize their operations. So I hope the term servitization now captures is quite clear. So servitization sits together with a lot of the other terminologies that you have been working with. Circular economy, product service systems. Service design, I heard already. Advanced services, that should be the outcome of a service transition. Capability contracts, and dematerialization of the economy. All of the terms you're very familiar with. And my specific area is the Internet of Things, role in servitization. And we have two colleagues here who are specifically, Panos and Dan, who are specifically working on gamification and its opportunity for accelerating the adoption of servitization and product service systems. And you're not scheduled to present on it, but I'm sure you will share with us some of the insight that you have, because if you're not familiar with this is the opportunity to use game technology or game principles to introduce new concepts to industry or educate people on new concepts. So a very powerful tool, much better than just preaching about it. So our specific approach is in a servitization center. We have these objectives. We want to promote the acceleration of servitization. So how do we do this? The first of all is one of the three pillars I have is a kind of what I call an industry club. Okay? So these are multinationals that are in the process of servitizing their product line. One product line, two product lines, a lot of them. And they are at the cutting edge of it. I'm not allowed to tell names because there's a bit of secrecy around it, because a lot of these products are not yet launched as services. But it is we bring these companies together and we go with them through their transition process. We follow them over the years, how they do the internal changes, how they develop their business proposition, how they change their business propositions, how they navigate the politics within the organization between production, sales, and services. And we learn from them. And we try out things with them. So we provide targeted seminars and research and exchange platforms. So we, on a 3-monthly basis, we bring these together for a 1-day, 2-day, 3-day workshop, which is under a specific umbrella term. And then researchers from our institution will present certain aspects. There will be a couple of workshops and seminars structured around it. For example, identifying innovating business models around services, the transition from going from a product-based business model to a service-based business model. And the organizations, from our experience, find it very interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, they get exposed to not consultants who try to push a certain proposition, but they get exposed to research in a palatable way. So not in terms of some dry paper, but in terms of presentation and engagement. And part of it is also that these organizations come together. So they are non-competitive organizations, but also they are close enough to understand each other's problems and see where the common theme is around their problems. So all of them are around the manufacturing business, more or less. Okay. The other second pillar that we're working is an SME network. So SMEs, small and medium enterprises, and we were lucky 2 years ago to have a major European funding that allowed us to develop a program that introduces the idea of servitization to around 100 SMEs in the region. So that works, again, 2-day workshops, developments within the company on their business models, structured seminars to help them to understand their specific business proposition, product-based, and how it could look like as a service proposition. And we have now, just a few weeks ago, granted another extended contract, so that will extend our network, extended grant to nearly 200 SMEs we can work with. Again, in the ideal situation, we take the insights we gain here by working with these organizations. They haven't figured it out yet. They're in the process of figuring it out. And we want to be part of as they figure it out and to help this. And ideally, we can share this in the SME network as we speak. Academic network, so that is the third part. We want to not just be working together with business, we want to work together with academics and ideally be the hub in the middle that brings it all together. So the Spring Servitization Conference is in UK, but probably in Europe, one of the most of the meeting places. That is what we run for servitization scholars. And we also bring a lot of industry speakers in there. So we want to really use it's a 2.5-day conference in the UK. This year it will be in Manchester to bring together practitioners and academics on servitization. And we're trying to create research collaborations with different institutions around the world and exchange. And with a bit of luck, out of this workshop, there will be some more collaborations coming. Okay. So I mentioned that we're working on this since 2 years. We're getting better at it, but we learn a lot. And this is just from my own perspective, some of the learnings that we have done. For us, it's a transition as being academics. We are used to work project-based. We get a grant, or we get something commissioned from an organization, a problem, we solve the problem, next problem, please. Okay? And that is very different from how we operate now, because we want to be process-based as a research center. So we want to develop a process of servitization that can be shared with 80 SMEs, 180 SMEs soon. And that is a very different challenge, because you need to find what is the common denominator and how to build in scalability, because you can't provide this one-to-one interaction if you're now dealing with 200 organizations. Or in the case of the industry network, 10 to 20 multinationals that operate all around the world. So you need to think very carefully we do need to think very carefully about scalable. Developing a business proposition, a value proposition. As we as a center, it's not about, we help you with servitization. What specifically can we help you with? And how can we roll this out over organization, and have a feedback loop to improve our processes? So for us, we're working on it. It hasn't solved yet. It will be an ongoing working process, but it definitely is a change from being just focusing on individual projects, but to focusing on rolling out a process. The other learning, I believe, we have done, or we're working on it, is adopting a business rhythm. Okay? My understanding is that in Brazil, the universities work very closely with businesses, especially in the engineering department. In the UK, that is not necessarily the case. So a lot of academics, including us, we are not used to working on business rhythm, tight deadlines, emails replied on the same day, and all the things that you would expect in business practice. And we have to, if we want to work with business and we want to be taken seriously with businesses, we have to adopt these, the tight time frames and fast decision making that businesses have on their end. Okay? Otherwise, we're not considered to be a viable partner for them. And the third, I think, major learning and the challenge that we're working on is maintaining the identity. Okay, we're working a lot with businesses, and some of the work that we do would be considered consultant, but we should not act as consultant. We should, because the businesses interact with us because they're tired of consultants trying to preach something that they may or may not have fully understood yet. So they would not engage with us if we were consultants. And then some organizations said, we wouldn't be interested at all if you were consultants. Not because we couldn't afford it, but it is because the business proposition is very different. Okay, so we have to maintain the identity of being researchers, being not following a profit motive, even though we need to fund ourselves, but the opportunity for us is to share research and learn from organization. That needs to be taken seriously. So balancing research and business engagement, but at the same time we need to appeal to private and public funding. So on the one hand, we need to appeal to these multinationals. We have to look slick and fast and efficient. And then we have to appeal to the funding bodies who want, theoretical, grounded research, rigor, and so on and so on. So that is another balancing act that we are still working on. Okay. Again, if you want some more specific insights, you could grab me anytime later the day or the next couple of days. So this is one of the project examples I want to now outline, and this is this was our major project with the 80 SMEs. And the objective of the SMEs of the project was to support the growth in manufacturing SMEs through servitization. So it was partly funded by the European Regional Development Fund. It was a 1.2 million euro project, and it is focused on regional development. And for the UK, manufacturing, as I think is for Brazil, is of strategic importance to keep manufacturing within the country and keep the skill within the country. Okay? But we will never be able to compete with some other countries who do it a lot cheaper. So we have to be much more innovative in the way we manufacture and in the way we distribute our product. And I think that gels well with the challenge that you outlined for Brazil. So this is the reason we got the fund. We present ourselves as being in the position to create economic growth and being an economic engine. So the project targets was to make 4,000 SMEs aware of servitization, so discuss with them the opportunities on a more high level, and then work intensely with around 77 SMEs in 2-day executive development workshops. And that is very much focused on the executives in the organization and discuss with them their business model and the opportunities to turn around their business model into a more innovative proposition. And the project has been completed, and we have the evidence that we generated 10.5 million euros on gross value added, because we encouraged and guided a lot of small and medium enterprises in adopting a new business model. Not leaving their own business model behind, but extending it towards a service-based business model. So let me just shortly talk about the program that we developed there. So one is from sales to service. It was one of the major focuses. So just helping organizations to be better at their service they're already doing. Maybe be more profitable in the service they're doing. Then the next one is changing the business model. So business model innovation program for SMEs. What business models are out there? What service-based business model could apply to you? And how could you get there? Business growth program for SMEs. How can you compete with different business models? You have been doing your own sales-based business model for the last 30 years. You know how to compete on this. How would it change if you want to compete on services or make the transition towards a service-based business? And then, how to be effective at doing so. Achieving operational excellence programs for SMEs and operational strategy. Because if you want to operationalize service, that is a big difference to operationalizing regular production and sales processes. So just a bit more detail. Understanding how the SMEs currently competes. Help identify what parts of the business they would like to focus on. Day 2, once the product customer mix has been considered, help them to address the factors and complete the program. And it's a classic workshop, 2-day workshop, but it has been very valuable for a range of SMEs. And based on our last successes, we got the now even bigger grant to have more intensive interactions with this, as we recruit specifically people now to interact with the cohort of SMEs, of nearly 200 SMEs, and guide them through the process. Okay, the last project, or the second and other project I want to discuss is the role of IoT in servitization. So that is my specific area. For my background, I'm an IT person. So that is where my passion lies. And I'm part of the Servitization Center, and there's always the question, what am I doing here? And hopefully by the end of this, you know what is the role of IoT in servitization and why it is so incredibly important. So how does IoT impact on the manufacturer's service profitability and growth, and the development of sustainable competitive advantage for the service business? So this was a project that we've done with a specific consultants company, and they want to know, their focus, this is funded by them, and their focus is what are the different service-based business models, examples out there, the use cases we say in IT terms, and what is the role of IoT in these? Okay? They told to us, a lot of organizations we wouldn't get access to because we are consultants, so they engaged with us, and we apply, our research hat, and then develop knowledge together with the consulting organization. So let me just walk through the range of services that we see, and I think that can help us for the next 2 days of the workshop as well, or 3 days. So warranty we consider here in this model as the most basic form of a service. You buy something, and for a year or 2 you have the commitment to look after it in case it breaks. Okay? Let me take the example of a lawnmower, and we can together work up there. So warranty, you buy a lawnmower, after a week it goes up in flame, you can invoke the warranty, and somebody will either repair it or replace it for you. So it's a very most basic form of a service that can be provided. The second one up, and we move basically from the product slowly to the service and relationship-based services. Time and material. That is, you have a lawnmower, it breaks, you're outside of the service of the warranty, and you commission somebody to repair it for you. So you pay for the time and material that has been used. Okay? It's a bit more upmarket from the warranty, but it's not very exciting service. Preventive maintenance. That is, we were slowly moving up the service chain. That would be you buy a lawnmower, and you put an additional contract in place that says for £60 extra, every half a year it will be serviced by somebody who will come to you, or you have a contract that you bring it in. They will sharpen the blade, they will exchange the oil, and they will make sure that the lawnmower is as good as new. And that's the end of the commitment. Availability services, that would be one level up even. That is the idea of you buy a lawnmower, and somebody makes a contract with you and assures that the lawnmower with a 99% availability will always work when you switch it on. Okay? You pay for it, somebody takes the risk of it, and somebody has to make sure that they can meet the commitment of 99% uptime. Okay? But you still buy the lawnmower. Hi. The next one is process optimization, and we move from a very reactive to kind of a preventative service to a more or less predictive service, where you want to minimize, you want to assess the risk, you want to predict the risk of the lawnmower breaking, and you want to get the risk down or manage the risk. And now we go into proactive service. That is the idea that the organization engages a lot more than just the product. So process optimization. Process optimization would be the idea that you buy a lawnmower, and even before you buy a lawnmower, somebody looks at your garden and advises you what lawnmower you need. Or when they realize how your lawnmower looks, they said you have the wrong lawnmower for your garden. It doesn't work. The process, the environment in which you are, the product in which you operate the product is the wrong environment. There is no good match. Okay? So we have a service proposition that advises you what would be a good lawnmower for your garden. Okay? Or how can we restructure the garden to make it work for your lawnmower? The next level up is business optimization. And that, in this instance, we consider the idea of, actually, you don't want to buy a lawnmower. You don't even want to own a lawnmower. What you want to have is the ability to mow your lawn when you wish to. You want the capability of lawn mowing. So this is the idea of, we don't want to sell you a lawnmower, we sell you the capability of a lawnmower. So whenever you lead a lawnmower, you will get a lawnmower from us. Okay? You can store it in your own garage, or we deliver it when you need it, but you will never buy it and own it. We own it, you will basically lease it or rent it from us when we need it. Or we have a long-term contract saying we need it 6 times a year, and it will be there when you need it. It will be an optimal position. So that's a very high-level a very high quality of service already. Or we can go even higher and say it's a business transformation. Actually, what you need is not a lawnmower at all. You need something that changes the growth of your grass. Okay? The lawnmower is a fix for a problem that you have. It's not a solution. Let me fix your problem, which is the grass. Okay? So I show you some business. It's becoming a silly example with the lawnmower, but you get the message. So I show you some examples how this is. It's about this business transformation. It's about getting rid of the underlying problem that would cause you to buy a lawnmower in the first place. And if you as an organization, as a lawnmower manufacturer, figures this out, you might sell less lawnmower, but you will be the king among all the lawnmower competitors because you have a certain new business proposition of which you know quite a lot about. Okay? So are there any questions to this? It's something that this kind of model comes in different configurations. You find this in a lot of textbooks. IoT is the other model that we're trying to interlink. One is service-based and one is IoT. And I don't go through all the layers because the interest might not be so much. But the IoT is basically the idea of that you have physical things like a lawnmower. And you put a lot of sensors on the lawnmower. And through different layers of technology, you as a provider of a lawnmower, of the lawnmowing company, you will have application that gives you a lot of sensor data on the operation, on the health, on the use, on the location, on every piece of the lawnmower you're interested in. So IoT allows you to get complete control as far as you can on a product which is in the field. So you basically, as an organization, you extend your entire sensor base across your installed base. Okay? So we want to now bring these two things together. What does the IoT, the opportunity to get information from products that are already out in the market that are being used, and how does it help the service business to operate? And we do some examples on this. So I go through a couple of organizations that we have. It's only snippets because the time is limited. There's a lot more detail to it, and there will be papers developed on this. So I give you just some business examples to see how it would work in practice. So these are examples about preventative maintenance. We don't go to the warranty or time. This is too simple. We go to preventative maintenance. So again, the focus of preventative maintenance is inspections, regular inspections, usually 6 months, whatever you do with your car. Adjustments, parts replacement, often it's bundled with break fix response services. So if you have a contract, or a predictive maintenance, you will also have a telephone number. If it breaks, you call me and I will look after it. So the first question is then always, why would manufacturers want to get into the space? Why are they not happy? What it is, there are people out there who already do preventative maintenance. Why should the manufacturers whose core skill is producing products, why should that get into a space that they probably not good at yet and somebody else is good at? Because there are people who are professionally providing maintenance services. So the opportunity for the manufacturer is extend the relationship from having a sale to having a one-off sale, having an ongoing interaction. And if it comes to replacing the product, they will be the first there who can offer their product. So that's already a big bonus. Better understanding of customer needs. Okay? If you have a regular service interaction, not just a 10-year sales cycle, you have a constant interaction and you know what customers need and you might be able in the position to offer another product. You showcase the range of expertise and you will be the first one if there's any extension of the product. And some of these products are continuously being extended. Okay? So one of the companies we worked with or we took data from is Terex Port Solutions. And they use the IoT, let me just check, to ramp up their remote diagnostics. So they are interested in providing services. They see the value for the manufacturers of providing these services. And they are looking at a way of doing it more efficient, less cost of providing the same service as they would usually do. So they put a lot of sensors onto their port cranes and port machines to see how much they can repair remotely. So sometimes, I think 20-30% of the cases, it can be a remote repair. So they don't have to send out any kind of technician and can provide the service. Or what they want to get down is the return visit rate. So they send out a technician because they can't repair it remotely, and the technician has to go there, find out what the problem is, has to go back, find the parts, or it's the wrong technician with the wrong skill set, and so on and so on. These are all totally unnecessary costs. So they strategically placed a lot of sensors into the machines to identify the root cause of any failure they would have to handle. So the idea is to reduce the diagnostic time and repair efforts. Again, the big question is, how does IoT help with the service business? So this is an example of IoT helping to make the service business more efficient. Okay? Same service business as before, preventative maintenance and repair, but for less cost to the service provider. Okay? This argument flips in the next slides. Another company doing also preventative maintenance. They are looking at IoT in order to have another added value. Okay? So they're a big international producer of commercial cleaning equipment. They place a lot of sensors in their machine. They have preventative maintenance contracts. They also try to do a bit of remote maintenance. But their core proposition is, if you are like the University of Sao Paulo, you probably have 300 of these in all different configurations. And if you are some of the, like other universities, you spend a lot of time trying to find out where they are, in which state they are, who's using them, and do they need to be replaced, and how much cost do I incur by owning them. So they figured that if they can provide data on asset utilization, they have an additional proposition to their preventative maintenance contract. So companies will switch to them because they're not just getting the product, they're not just getting the preventative maintenance, they're getting information that helps them to be more efficient in their own operations. Okay? So they use IoT differently than the one before. The one before was about efficiency. This is about creating an additional value proposition to promote the service. So help customers optimize their own business operations, demonstrate added value of products and services. The next one, which is quite an innovative example, we're still on the preventative maintenance segment of services. That is a company, GAA Food Production. It's a big international player for any kinds of, and this is a milking dairy parlor, and they have, they work a lot with milk and in very remote places often. They also put a lot of sensors in the machines, and they realize, okay, usually I can provide services for some companies. Other companies are outside of my service spectrum because I have technicians, don't have any technicians in the area. They're in the middle of the Australian outback, so they're not part of my service portfolio. But now, if I put IoT sensors into all of my equipment, can I make them part of my service portfolio without having to go there because they're still very far geographically away? So they develop a service platform that provide customers advanced analytics to optimize their own services. So they know that these companies will never be a service partner in the sense of that the GA technicians will come in. So they will have their own technicians. But by grabbing the data, applying the analytics to the data, they can provide an additional service proposition, an information-based service proposition to the companies who do their own maintenance. So instead of competing with them, they're helping them because the analytics tell them, there's a likelihood of 90% likelihood of this parts to fail, and so on and so on. All these predictive analytics, and they now offer this to a new area of customers, which they have never touched before as the service customers. So they use the IoT to extend their service constituents, and they support customers to do their own self-maintenance. So these are all preventative maintenance propositions. But they all use IoT, but they use it in a very different way. One is to be more efficient as a service provider. The other is to have an added value that is created. And this one is to create a new information-based value proposition that is being charged for as a very expensive rate. Okay? So let's move up now the service dimension to the availability service. So focus of the availability services is the manufacturers guarantee a continuous uninterrupted utilization of their product. Okay? So I guarantee that 99% uptime of your product. The transfer, what happens is a transfer of operational responsibilities and risk from the owner of the product to the provider of the product, to the manufacturer. So the opportunity for the manufacturer is to capitalize on product quality, expertise, and spare parts. Because if you know that your product is very good and you can monitor the risk, why would you not take the risk yourself? Okay? If your product is not good, you wouldn't want to take the risk. Okay? So they put Aqua Healthcare, and I think you probably have heard of them. They use this quite extensively to offer as an additional service proposition to their customers. So they put a lot of IoT sensors, everything is digital linked, and they monitor on a continuous basis the performance and the failure rate of their healthcare equipment. And this is remotely monitored, and with this one they can control the risk. They know at what point there is a breaking point, at what point there is an overload of any servers that they need to deal with. And they are much more efficient than the hospitals in doing so. So they basically take on the risk, bring the risk down with their advanced analytics, and offer this as a service proposition. And they interfere remotely with the products if there's any risk occurring, any faults are coming up. So what they do is the availability service for medical imaging technology, and they specify uptime guarantees, 99% uptime. Okay? So the hospital has somebody who looks after their shoulder. The hospital still owns it. They offer the customer to monitor, respond, and maintain equipment and manage the risk, because every product has a risk. Okay. So this is an example of availability service. So in this case, the hospital still owns the product, but they have somebody there like an insurance agent, which is the manufacturer of the product, who knows the product a lot better than the hospital, who acts as an insurance for availability of the product. Now we come into the sphere where the products are not necessarily owned by the using company anymore. So we go to IoT-based process optimization service. So again, we had this before. Process optimization is about improving the customer business context. It's a kind of a consulting service to optimize the business value of the product. We had the example of, I would advise you on the right lawnmower, or I structure the garden in a way that your lawnmower work better in the garden. So GE Aviation does this. I mean, GE Aviation does a lot of innovative things, and often they do the power by the hour proposition, which we all heard about. But they also provide, for example, the GE Aviation flight efficiency service. So they have tons of sensors on their engines, flying all across the world, and they can basically advise airports on how to structure their runways, how to sequence the planes, because they know exactly how much idle time the engines have and the way they're navigating around the airport, and they found models to optimize all this, and they can get down the fuel consumption within the airport premises by certain percentages, 5, 6, 7%, reduce emissions and so on, by using the intelligence they get from the machines and advising airports on optimizing the use and the sequencing of their planes, the runway, and in one case they even help to get the starting angle of the planes adjusted based on the data they could get from the engines. They realized that there is another efficiency potential. And that was an additional optimization service, a consulting service based on IoT data that they have grabbed over years and developed algorithms to optimize and understand. So the situation we have, they analyze the engine data to advise customers on precision navigation and fuel management. For example, one of them is at what point can you switch off one engine when you taxi around the airport, and so on and so on. And they provide a portal solution as a fee-based additional service to provide continuous analytical insights to help optimize flight operations on an ongoing basis. So it'll be constantly matched up with weather data and so on to advise the airport operators how to best get the taxiing service done. The other example of optimization service is part of the Xerox empire. Xerox, we all know about their managed print, not so interesting. But they use an independent consultancy, which they own, but they treat them as an independent consultancy, to help advise customers on the best printing environment they create. And the customers very much want to have an additional independent advice as a value proposition based on all the IoT data that is in the printing device. Because they don't want to be told by Xerox or any other companies who have a vested interest in equipping them with equipment to be told how many printers they need and how to optimize the placement of the printers and so on. So Xerox was very aware of this. They created an independent consulting company which has advanced analytics, and that takes all the data from all the printers, from all the networks, and helps companies to optimize the positioning of their equipment. Or if a company like a governmental department wants to go for a new tender for printing, they would engage with Newfield IT. Newfield IT would get all the data from the network, from all the printers, do a big analytical process to identify what the tender for the printer's service should look like. Okay? So devise and network data to identify printing needs and optimize opportunities. They operate at an arm's length of Xerox to ensure product-independent consulting and analytics services. Again, we found this in a couple of organizations. If they want to optimize, become product independent is important to have this optimization service. So what you gain here is you have new data-driven consultancy services for your portfolio. So this is the second last of the highest level of products, of services. This is the business optimization service. And in this case, we often have the scenario that the companies don't want to own the products anymore. They literally want the capability of the products. As I mentioned, the lawnmower, actually nobody wants a lawnmower. We want the ability to mow the lawn when we wish to. Okay? So this kind of service level has been taken on by a couple of organizations. One of them is the MAN. But the focus on the process optimization is to provide the customer with critical business functions and product-related capabilities. So why would manufacturers want to engage in this? And the moment MAN provides a truck as a service, this is the moment they don't sell a truck. So their sales goes down, services go up. So why would MAN be interested in providing trucks as services? You leverage the product quality. If you have a good product quality, providing it as a service is a very profitable business because you don't have to do a lot of fixing on the product. So the long ongoing cost of owning it can be managed. And you have unique insights and you have long-term relationships with your customers. Okay? So this is about 5-10 years you provide them trucks and have an ongoing relationship. So the MAN uses the pay-per-use model. So they So they provide trucks as a service, and you get charged by the mile or by the day you use this over a long-term contract. So they use IoT. They put a lot of IoT on the truck, manage the driver behavior, manage the efficiency of the truck, manage everything. And they will extend to tire pressure, that everything gets monitored remotely. And they use this to assist, first of all, they use this to manage their own asset, to manage the risk the asset has, because they want to know if they have this kind of contract, they have to make sure that the truck always is in peak condition. So they use the IoT data to ensure this. Without the IoT data, they would own assets that are floating around the UK, and they had no idea how the asset is doing. They would have 99% uptime requirements, and they couldn't even monitor the uptime because they wouldn't have access to the operational data. So the insured trucks operate at their optimal performance level. On the other hand, they have another value-added proposition in there because they use the IoT data as a feedback tool to the using companies. So if you use an MAN truck and use it as a service, you will get a weekly report about your driver performance. Which of the drivers works efficient, which works inefficient, about harsh braking, cornering, and so on and so on. So based on this, you can structure incentive systems to reward the best driver, and there are numbers out there that they reduce fuel efficiency. They create fuel efficiency of 10% if based on the data they can grab from the trucks by incentivizing the drivers. And the other example is Abbott Healthcare. Same scenario, they provide a lot of pay-per-use because hospitals are usually cash-strapped, so they provide a pay-per-use analytic equipment to the hospitals, put a lot of IoT sensors in there, and then they apply sophisticated predictive algorithms to this, so they can basically fix the machines or call up the hospitals a day before the machine is about to break, because there are some certain variations in the data they get which indicates a certain damage. And this is the only way they can actually provide this, because they can handle the risk by getting the IoT data. So IoT is presented here as a core enabler of service offering. The last one is on the upper hand. I described the example of the lawnmower. Actually, we don't want a lawnmower. We don't want to even mow the lawn. We want to get the grass under control. So we want to address the underlying problem. So Xerox, so the optimization alter the root cause of the customer's service requirements. The opportunity for manufacturers, part of it is to fend off commoditization, because everybody else will provide lawnmowers and lawnmowers as a service. So if I can be one step down the value chain and say, or one step up the value chain and say, I control the grass for you and not worry about the machines that you use to produce the grass, I can work with you on this. So Xerox now developed the managed print and content service. And Xerox is usually traditionally a company that was very much focused on selling printers. Then it moved to a company that was focused on providing printing as a service. And now they're focusing on minimizing the amount of print, because they step up. They want to control and manage the information flows within the company. And they want to create the revenue from the information flows within the company, not from the edge of the network where the printing sits. They realize even printing as a service has become a commodity, but we want to minimize the need for printing by structuring the information flows within the organization a lot smarter. So they have moved from the product to a service to now a digital service in order to serve their customers. So a shift from optimize content management and workflow capability to effectively reduce their printing needs. And that is a big step for a company who is a printing company. They want to now enable their customers to not print anymore. But if you do the math, it works out for them. But it's a big jump for any company to go through to completely flip the business proposition. So it's a shift for them, it's a shift from the physical environment to the digital information and communication environment of the customers. And the last one is I think a German company, but international company working on ATM machines. They again put a lot of IoT data, IT sensors in the ATM machines with the objective originally to provide additional services for the ATM. Basically, when we realize the ATM is not working, we respond to it, or we can predict some. But they realize with all the data they capture, they can get a lot of operation that the bank has and can take it on for them more efficiently. So they now provide a cash management service, because they know from the data which cash machine is most likely to run out with cash at what point in time. I said nobody else has this kind of data. Nobody else has this across the entire Europe. So we set up a new business. We use the data, and we minimize the need for the banks to look after their data. So we completely take this problem away from the bank. Okay. This again was a trajectory. My objective was to give you examples of product services and how you get from, not just, we call this a service and call it a product, how you get from develop value-added services, you move from product, the service that focus on the product, to service that focus on the business itself. And then I wanted to show you what the role of IT is in all of these propositions. And we still haven't fully figured out the entire scope of different service propositions and the different roles IT plays in there. But this is one of the ongoing projects that we're working with companies to identify where are all these opportunities that this brings for the economy. Okay. Let me just check with time. Yeah. I have to be very quick now. IoT, contribution to servitization, key for service development delivery, extends, not replaces manufacturers-based services, support services and product services, service efficiency, extends the service reach into the most remote areas, and it strengthens the business risk assessment because you can control your assets and the risk of your assets. Thank you very much.